Hello, my name is Beata. Today I'm going to be doing a neurological assessment. So before I start, I'm going to wash my hands, put on proper PPE, and get my equipment ready. When the patient comes in, I'm going to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Beata. I'm going to be doing an assessment on you. I'm an NP student. Is that okay? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go over the concerns that the patient has, the subjective, and while I'm doing the subjective, I'm looking at the patient's mental, her appearance, her general appearance when she came in, how her gait was, when she's sitting, how her posture is, and while we're talking about her concerns, I'm going to be looking, I'm going to be hearing her thought process, if she's logical in her wording. I'm also going to look at her hygiene, and she's dressed appropriately to weather, and see if there's any abnormalities with her mental status. And then after that, I'm gonna move on to cranial nerves. So I'll start with olfactory. For the purpose of this exam, I'm not gonna do an actual smell, but I would have been able to introduce like a coffee or a strong smell where I could see if the patient could actually smell. Do you have any issues with smell?
No.
No? Okay, so can we just see the patency of your nose? If you could just cover one nostril and breathe in through one, yeah, and then the other one. Great. So patient has patency in both nostrils. So cranial nerve number 1 is normal. So I'm going to move on to optic, which is cranial nerve number 2. And I'm going to start that with her doing a Snell chart. Do you have any problems with vision?
No.
Okay, and if she did have any issues with vision, then I would let her have her corrective lenses on. If not, 20 feet apart, cover one eye, then the other eye, and then do both eyes. If she was nearsighted, I would give her a pocketbook. Moving on, I'm going to go into the motor aspect of this, of visual fields of confrontation test. So if you could just cover one eye, let me see if they can see, okay, and I would cover the same eye, and I would stand one hand apart from the patient, and I'm just going to wiggle my fingers and let me know when you see it, okay?
No. No. No.
Okay, great. Keep that same eye covered and let me know when you see it.
No. No. No.
Great. So knowing that my peripheral vision is normal as well, and if we see it at the same time, then it is a normal peripheral vision that she's having. So moving on, so optic nerve number 2 and 3, which is oculomotor, we're going to do together as well. So oculomotor, I'm looking at her actual pupils and how they react. So I'm going to look first at her eyes, making sure her eyes are symmetrical, making sure that the pupils are both the same size, as well as the iris, the same size and symmetrical. And then I'm going to go into the direct light, making sure that her pupils are reactive to light. So first I'm going to start off with direct, and then I'm going to do consensual, which is looking at the other eye, making sure that it's reactive as well. So first is direct. If you could just look straight. Great. So they're around 3, and they constrict, and now I'm looking at consensual, and the other one did constrict as well. Great, so moving on, so I'm going to as well do now the accommodation test. So I'm just going to look, get patient to look at an item. So let's look at this. If you could just look straight at this, and then look behind me. Okay, making sure that her pupils do dilate. So they do, and as well I'm going to do a conversion test. If you could just look at the item and look straight. Great. So the conversion test patient did well as well. Her eyes did convert into the object that I was letting her look at. So moving on, we're going to do cranial nerves number 3, the oculomotor, 4, the trochlear, and then 6, the abducens all together. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to do the 6 cardinal of gazes. So looking at her extraocular movement and making sure that there's no nystagmus and that she's following the actual object. So I'm going to do an H pattern. If you could just follow the object without moving your head. So her eyes did follow the object correctly. I didn't see any nystagmus. And while I'm doing that, I'm just gonna look at her eyelids, making sure there's no ptosis, no drooping of the eyelid. So everything looks normal there. So I'm gonna move into cranial nerve number 5, which is trigeminal. And the trigeminal nerve, I'm gonna do a pain as well as a light touch on her face, okay? So I'm gonna start with a cotton swab. If you could just, cotton ball, sorry. If you could just close your eyes and let me know when you actually feel me touch you.
No. No. No.
Great. Okay, so if you could just give me your hand and let me know if it's sharp. So this is sharp and this is dull. Okay, so I'm gonna touch you on your face and I would do sharp and dull.
Sharp. Dull. Sharp.
Great. And as well, I would do it on the other side, but from time constraint, I'm just gonna do one side only. So moving on, I'm gonna do her cranial, actually the same cranial nerve, I'm gonna do the motor aspect of it. I'm gonna do her, if you could just clench your teeth. Okay, I'm gonna do her temporal, making sure that her temporal muscles are symmetrical and their tone is good, as well as her masseter muscles. Great. And if you could just move your jaw for me, side to side. Great. So that is the trigeminal nerve, and she did very well with that. So moving on, I'm going to do cranial nerve number 6, which is, sorry, 7, which is facial. Because 6 we did, yeah. So facial, I'm going to look at her face, her overall appearance. So her face is symmetrical, her eyes are symmetrical, her nasal folds are symmetrical, her nose is symmetrical, and then I'm going to test it out by letting her move her face. So if you could just move your eyebrows for me. Great. If you could close your eyes and let me open it. Great. If you could make a smile. Great, symmetrical. And if you could make a frown. Great. So everything looks great. Everything was symmetrical for the patient. Actually, I forgot one thing. If you could puff out your cheeks. Great. Okay. So moving on, I'm going to do cranial nerve number 8, which is acoustic, vestibular, ocular as well. So that is testing her hearing. If you could just, so I'm going to whisper into your ear. If you could plug your ear and tell me if you hear what I'm saying.
1, 2, 3.
Great. And same thing, I would do the other ear as well, but for the purpose, I'm just going to do one ear. And I'm going to move on to test cranial nerve number 9, glossopharyngeal, cranial nerve number 10, vagus, and 12, hypoglossal, all together. So I'm going to start off with you swallowing. If you could swallow for me. Great. And I'm just looking at her symmetry when she smiles. If you can also, so say tight, light, diamondite.
Tight, light, dynamite.
So I'm going to look at to make sure that she's pronouncing all the letters as well as the words correctly. And then I'm going to look into her mouth. If you could just open your, yeah. And if you could take out your tongue for me, stick out your tongue, making sure it's symmetrical. And now if you could just say, ah. Okay, great. So I'm just looking inside her mouth, making sure the uvula is also midline, which it is in her case. So that's the, oh, actually, as well as protrude your tongue on this side and then the other side. Great. So that is cranial nerve number 9, 10, and 12. So I'm just going to do now 11, which is spinal accessory nerve. So this is the trapezius muscle. If you could just lift up, great. So good muscle tone, and then go towards me, and then towards me. Great, so that is the end of our cranial nerves. So moving on, we're going to go into our motor aspect of the neurological exam. And for motor, I'm just going to look at her posture, her muscle tone, if she has any tics. If you could just take out your hands. I'm looking for any tremors, and her muscle tone. So I'm comparing if the muscle tone and strength is equal to her upper as well as her lower, which from the looks of it is equal as well. So I'm also going to test her resistance to passive movement. So if you could just relax for me. So there is no cog wheeling. She doesn't have any resistance. And then if you can do the wrist as well. Zero resistance, very relaxed. Okay, and the lower, actually see. Great, no resistance. Zero resistance to the movement. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to doing her muscle tone. I'm gonna do her upper and her lower muscle tone. I'm gonna start off with her elbows. So if you could pull, pull. Okay, and now push. Great. Your wrist, push up. Okay, and push down. Okay, and now her grip strength. Okay, as well as her abduction. So if you could open and don't let me close. If you could close and don't let me open. Great. And as well as her grip strength. Great. And if you could put your index finger to your thumb. Great. And don't let me open it. Great. So that is her upper motor strength, as well as now I'm going to do her lower. I'm going to start off only one side for the purpose of this test. So if you could just push up. Okay. Push down. Okay. Push back. Push forward. And then her ankles, push up, and then push down. Great. Okay, and also if you could abduct, so push out, okay, and push in, abduct. Great. So we did very well on that. She has really good muscle strength and tone for her upper as well as her lower. So now I'm gonna move on to her coordination. So we're going to start with rapid movement. So if you could just put your palms like that. Okay, we're just making sure that she's doing it well. That's great. So now if you could pinpoint on your nose and point to my finger, yeah. Great. And we're also going to do, if you could do your heel from the top of your knee all the way to the bottom. Great. And I would also do to both sides just to make sure it's equal. If you could just tap. Okay, tap. Great. Okay, so if you get up for me and just walk one line regularly, yep, great. And then tandem walk. So heel to toe, yeah. Oh, sorry. Heel to toe. Okay, and then walk on your heels. And walk on your toes. Okay, great. So if you could just stand right there and close your eyes. So I would do the Romberg test. And just to make sure there is balance, which there is. And then I would do the pronator drift. So if you could just stick out your hands. And I'm making sure that her hands are, in fact, there is no drifting, that they are good. I would count to 10 when she does this. You can lower it. And now if you could stand on one foot and then stand on the other. Great. So that's for coordination. You did amazing on that. So if you could sit back down, and now we're going to move on to sensory. So that is also light touch. Because we did the face already, we're just going to move on to the upper and the lower body. And it's going to be light touch and pain, so dull and sharp again. Okay, so we're going to start with light touch, and you just close your eyes and you let me know when you actually feel me touch you.
No. 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 No.
Okay, great. So now I'm going to do the sharp and dull, and as you already know what the sharp and dull is, right? So when I touch you, just let me know if it's sharp or it's dull, okay?
Sharp. Sharp. Dull. Sharp. 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 sharp, dull, 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 sharp, 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 dull,
That's okay.
dull, 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 sharp, sharp, sharp. Oh, sharp.
Oh.
Dull. Sharp.
Great. Okay. So we're gonna now move on, and we're gonna do the vibration. So I will do this on her distal finger as well as distal toe. And I'm gonna do a vibration, and you just tell me when you actually feel the vibration and when the vibration stops, okay? So if you could close your eyes for me.
Start. Stop.
Great.
Start. Stop.
Great. Okay, so there is no abnormalities with that. So now I'm going to move on to the discrimination sensation. So if you could just close your eyes, I'm going to hand you something in your hand, and you let me know what you think it is, okay? If you could close your hand and
Paperclip.
great. So that is the stereognosis, and she was able to recognize what's in her hand. And then I'm going to move on to doing the graphesthesia, which I'm going to write a number in your hands, and you let me know what the number is, okay?
3.
Great. Okay, so that is it for the sensory part. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so for the motor, for the muscle, I just remembered, she does have, her grade is 5 for the motor. She has really good tone and strength. So we're going to move on to doing reflexes now. Let me just, yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to doing reflexes. So we're going to start with the biceps. So I'm just going to feel the tendons just above her AC. Okay, I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Okay, and I would do the other hand as well, like for every other exam. And then I would do the triceps. So as well, I would feel the tendons, the tendon here. Okay, I saw that and I felt that. So that's her upper body. Actually, I also will do the brachioradialis. So I would feel the tendons right here. And I will watch out for the thumb movement. Great. Okay. So moving on. Good. Okay. Okay. I'm going to move on to the knees, doing the patellar reflexes. So I'm going to feel for her knee and just under her knee. Wow, okay. She has very brisk reflexes there. And I'm going to do the Achilles. Oh, let me see. Sorry. There you go. So just relax. I'm just going to go at the back of the ankle. There you go. Okay, so her reflexes were good. Biceps, triceps, brachioradialis, knee, and ankle. So now I'm just going to move on since I'm down there already. I'm gonna move on to the Babinski. So that's testing her, it's like a special test, testing her reflexes. Okay, so I'm just gonna go on. Great, you ticklish. Okay, so then going on, since she's lying down already, I'm also gonna do a test for her Rubinski, and that's the test of her neck flexion. So, and then a test basically for meningeal. So I'm gonna raise your neck up. Okay, and then so we look for any abnormal movements, like her raising her actual knees or legs up. And then the last test is the curling test, which I'm gonna flex your leg. Okay, and put it up. Okay, and there's no resistance, and I'm just looking for any resistance to her movement. So that is the end of my neurological exam. If I do see any abnormalities, I would definitely investigate further or do a neuro referral. That's it. Thank you.